My name is Jackson. I'm a first year student in Bill's group, and I work in RMG almost exclusively. I'm in chemical engineering and computation here at MIT, so I do a lot of software development, and I'm excited to see a lot of you on the GitHub page in the future. So this section here is going to be very briefly how to install RMG, and then I want to spend most of the time helping people with individual issues. We've seen in the past that this is a very complex program, like Bill mentioned, and it can be a little bit difficult to get off the ground. Recently, we've made some steps to try to simplify that. So hopefully, fingers crossed, it's going to be pretty straightforward. And if not, we have basically everyone who knows how RMG works in this room or on Zoom. So we'll be trying to figure that out. So step one for all things RMG is go to rmg.mit.edu. This is the website where we have basically everything there is to know about RMG. You'll get a really good detailed walkthrough on this, I think, later this, I think probably today. But just for now, the way that I want you to go is to the documentation pane on the left. And then we're going to go to the RMG User's Guide, which will tell us how to install RMG. And again, if you ever have any questions about RMG in the future, come to this page. It has an absolutely enormous amount of documentation. And then finally go to section 3.1 for the recommended install. And these are the installation instructions that we will be working off of today. If you are just running RMG for a relatively simple model on your laptop or a nicer like desktop in your lab, the recommended install is definitely sufficient. And if you run into Docker issues online, Docker is a very well-supported piece of software that you can get a lot of help with. If you are a power user, a developer, if you're trying to build this on like a high-performance computer, something like that, please come to the developer session on Wednesday, where we'll walk through the detailed installation instructions for how to build RMG from source. But step one for everyone, follow this link for download and install Docker, and you'll be landed at this page. So while everyone does that, if you haven't done it already, I'll just briefly explain what Docker is by going to GitHub. So the RMG installation instructions under the hood are actually pretty complicated. So these are the instructions we're going to be following later this week. So they involve setting up some external pieces of software, installing additional dependencies, modifying the path, cloning a bunch of things, building things, very involved. As you can see, it's a 9-step process. What we've done with this Docker and what Docker enabled us to do is we've already provided a set of instructions for this Docker software to execute all of those steps for us. And then what we're giving to you is basically an image of a computer that's already run all of these steps so that you don't have to do them yourself. Saves you a lot of time, and it makes sure that everyone's starting on the exact same page. So we don't have to recompile and waste all of our time doing that every single time. But again, that's all under the hood. That's not a huge deal. So again, hopefully everyone has Docker installed, or you're staring at a loading window right now. Regardless, we'll go on to step 2. After you have Docker going, and this might involve a restart, you'll run docker pull reaction mechanism generator RMG 3.1.1. So Docker, again, is the name of the software. Pull, in this case, is telling it to go retrieve that image that we've uploaded. The image is the set of steps that we've already executed. Reaction mechanism generator is the name of our organization, and RMG is the actual software that you're downloading. And then this just says the version number. So 3.1.1 is the latest release of RMG Pi. Very soon we're going to 3.2, which is exciting. So keep an eye out for that. And we'll keep these instructions updated as we go.
How big is the Docker pull?
Yes, so the amount of files you download is about 4 gigabytes. And then once you uncompress it, I think it gets up to 8 or 10. So it is pretty big. And if it becomes an issue in the future, we can try to pare this down a little bit. But in terms of simplicity, it's pretty straightforward. And you can, of course, delete and rebuild these in the future without any consequences.
Is that how we'll update 3.2? Just delete the whole image and then get the new image?
Yes, so in the future, when you want to get a new version of RMG, instead of using 3.1.1, you'll put in 3.2 or 3.4 or 4 or whatever it might be. And that will download the new version alongside your existing one. So this will allow you to run multiple if you are like me and you want to do that for some reason. But it'll also allow you to really easily upgrade without having to go through a huge installation procedure. And that last step, once it's downloaded, and that might take a few minutes, it's a large number of files, you'll do this long command. So I'll kind of break down what this does step by step so we can all be on the same page. Again, we have Docker, the same software.
And Jackson, could you zoom in on your screen a
Oh,
little bit?
yeah, sorry.
Thanks.
All right, how's that?
A lot better.
Perfect. Yeah. So we have Docker run. Run in this case tells it to take that image file and put it into a container. This terminology, container is what holds the image and what actually runs the software. And the image is the thing that we've created and uploaded that has RMG in it. Thank you, Bill. We're going to give it a name, RMG container, just so it's easy to find in the future. This command -v is going to make this file path available inside the Docker container. So what this will allow you to do is any files that you edit in the folder users, RMG users, my RMG files will be visible inside of the Docker container. What this is going to allow you to do is when we're writing input files later is you can really easily edit it on your computer, on your host machine, and then it will show up in the Docker container without you having to copy files around or use like a god-awful like terminal editor, anything like that. You can use whatever software you're comfortable with. One note is that you'll need to update this file path to something on your computer. So if you're on a Unix machine, that'll be something like /home / your username, and then my RMG files. If you're on Windows, just change RMG user to be your username. And one last note is that if this directory does not exist, when you run this command, it will make it for you. So just keep that in mind. And then the very last part of this command just says -it means run it interactively. Run it interactively, and then this just tells it the name of the image to execute. So 3.1.1 is the current version again, and in the future, after you've pulled a updated version, you would just change that 3.1 to be 3.2 or 4 or whatever it might be. And again, we'll keep these up to date as we go. And then later in the training, we're going to talk about how to use Docker for some more interesting use cases, things like running Jupyter notebooks, as well as restarting. But yeah, so with that being said, why don't we move into making sure everyone can get it running. Once you are successfully in a Docker, what I'd like you to try doing is Python JL rmg.py help. And what that's going to do is call the most basic. Yeah, so try running this command inside the Docker container once you have it up and running, just to make sure that it works. But yes, with that being said, why don't we turn the lights back up and then we can start helping people get work. So yes, raise your hands if you have problems. We'll circle around. We'll keep an eye on the Zoom as well. So if anyone on Zoom has questions, and yeah, we'll do that into the break, I think. Yeah. That command will take a couple seconds to run, up to like a minute. In the background, what that's doing is Python is the main driver for this, but we solve our reactor systems using Julia. So that's the -JL part. And Julia requires a little bit of downtime the very first time you run it, just to compile code. So it's going to do that, and then it will do the help section, which will get you started.